Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live for one final time for a little bit. The 336 once again for episode 76 of the 815 Exchange. And well, college football playoff national championship, college football season concluded last Monday. So we got to talk about that off the jump because, you know, it happened what feels like a lifetime ago. But we got to talk about Georgia, Alabama. We also got to talk about the playoffs, and I'm sure, as all of you know, you want to hear me talk about the Cowboys. And Chris, what do you think about the Cowboys? You know, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk about that. Okay, I got you. And of course, as it has been the past couple weeks, we have plenty to talk about in entertainment. So, as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you are enjoying the content. Remember to go to the description. Listen, it's got timestamps. It's got my social medias. Everything you're looking for, like I always say on every single episode of the 815 Exchange. Everything you're looking for is in the description. So, feel free to go there. Feel free to entertain yourself. Skip ahead. Find what you're looking for. If you really, really cannot wait to hear me talk about my Dallas Cowboys, feel free to go to the NFL segment. But for now, we're going to kick us off. We're going to kick us off with college football, as this is the last college football segment for a very, very, very long time. Tragically, one of the best years, one of the best seasons, one of the best sports out, in my opinion. College football has concluded, and well, I was wrong. I was wrong, you know. As much as I'm right on this podcast, I have to be respectful for when I'm wrong. And I was wrong, Georgia. I was wrong. I told you that you needed to step up. I told you that y'all needed to show up. Show some heart. Show that fight that y'all didn't have a month ago in the SEC Championship. And well, they had it. They got the win, 33-16. Now, you can say a couple things, of course, namely because, crazy enough, the two top receivers for this Alabama team both ended up tearing their ACLs. Of course, Mechie tore it, I think, during was it the semifinal or the conference championship? But Mechie, of course, was out for the game with a torn ACL. And then Jameson Williams, as soon as he busts the entire game open, tries to plant, tears his own ACL. Knew it immediately, saw the pop, hated for him. Two of the top, prospects in this year's draft on the wide receiver front, both of them getting hurt. Hate to see that. That changed the game. That completely altered the game. Don't get me wrong. Georgia's defense played brilliantly, and we'll talk about that. But those two things did happen, and that altered the game completely. Going ahead of time, if I knew JMO was going to get hurt, of course I would have probably picked Georgia to somehow pull it off. But nonetheless, it is what it is. What happened is what happened. The biggest reason for Georgia winning this game, however, was the defense. The defense was phenomenal. They saw the opportunity with Bryce Young without his top two targets and took full advantage. Bryce was not comfortable. I think some of this has to go back on Bill O'Brien, though, because his play calling was god-awful. It was god-awful. I don't understand the whole synopsis around, I have Bryce Young. I brought in Bryce Young, right? I recruited him here. I know who he is. He's got a great arm. He can make the throws. Yada, yada, yada. We've seen it. He won the Heisman. Got it. But it feels like they're using Bryce Young with a cap on, right? They're limiting how good Bryce Young can be by the fact that for whatever reason, either they have coached it out or they have told him not to run the ball. Bryce Young in high school, and what led to him being almost, at the very least, the number one quarterback in his class, was how dynamic he was, not just with his arm, but with his feet. He is an excellent runner, can cause you all types of issues with his feet, and can make some very, very big plays happen, and he made some very, very big plays happen with his feet at modern day. So I don't quite understand why it's when he got to Alabama, they're trying to make Bryce Young a pocket passer. He is not a pocket passer. I will never understand that. And certainly not a pass rush in a defense without your top two weapons as good as Georgia, they had him sitting back there like a sitting duck. He was a target. He was a stationary target, and that is insane to say about Bryce Young. I have no idea why Bill O'Brien did not roll him out. When you saw that your offensive line could not handle, as a whole, that Georgia defense and that Georgia front seven, you should have been rolling him out all game. Let him use his athleticism. For all the faults I give, I can't remember his name, but all the faults I gave that Clemson offense last year, and really in the swan years of Trevor Lawrence's reign, one thing I did like is that Trevor was allowed to run. They even called him, gave him designated runs. And we're talking about Trevor Lawrence, who's a great athlete, but he's not as good of an athlete as Bryce Young, right? They gave Trevor Lawrence design runs. When the game mattered most in the playoffs, like in that Ohio State game, his sophomore year, not his junior year, because that went on him. But the sophomore year when they won, and there was some controversy around that, he ran the ball. He had that long run, pulled it off. You have to win. It's winning time. You got to try to win by any means necessary. And it feels like they're not completely using Bryce Young to the best of his capabilities, which sounds insane because he just won the Heisman. But great job. Tyndall, great day. Both Walkers, great day. Nolan Smith looked like the number one player in the class when he was coming out of high school. He looked like that guy. Nolan Smith was phenomenal on Monday. Lewis Seen, of course, won Defensive MVP. Zeus. Honestly, I think there's a fair argument that Zeus could have been the offensive MVP instead of who they gave it to. But nonetheless, Zeus did what Zeus does. He's headed to the league. Congratulations. Stetson Bennett went 224 and 2 touchdowns. But Stetson Bennett is not why they won this game. Alright? Stetson, listen, he played god-awful. Alright? He looked like a deer in his headlines. Word to Mobb Deep. My boy was shook. Alright? He was shook. For the first, it's a 60-minute game. For the first 55 minutes of this game, he was, in the words of Coach 30, pissing down his leg. Alright? He was frightened. Alright? He could do nothing. He could do nothing. Alright? He was getting exposed to the umpteenth tier. But when it mattered, I will say he showed a lot of heart. He did what he had to do. And that's all you can really ask. That's all you can really ask. When it was time to win, he made the right decisions, right? It wasn't perfect. A.D. Mitchell, shout out to the freshman receiver, bailed him out on that touchdown, right, with a phenomenal catch. And Alabama's defense gave him some favors, right? Kyrie Jackson was getting cooked all game, okay? But when it mattered, I have to give my credit to Stetson, even though I don't think he should have been MVP because he did not play a great game, even though the stats say, okay, this wasn't a bad game. It wasn't really that great if you watched it. He showed up when it mattered. And that's what matters when it's the national championship. We've seen it time after time after time again. When it matters, if you can make the right choices, that's all you need. And he goes down as a legend in Athens because he just won the national championship. So credit to Stetson. What else did I want to say? Keely Ringo. Okay, I didn't mention him on the defense. I know he had the pick six. That's going to be in all the highlight tapes. But once again, listen, Keely was getting cooked. All right? He was getting cooked. I know everybody's going to see the pick six and be like, oh, Ringo, he did all this stuff and his draft stock is going to go way up. But he was getting, slaughtered. He was getting cooked just as bad, possibly more than Kyrie Jackson, which was insane. Because Kyrie Jackson literally tackled a man because he got burnt so bad. But Keely Ringo was getting cooked. He couldn't cover anybody. I'm not sure if he could have covered my grandfather on Monday. It was bad. It was bad. He got the pick six, though, to seal the game. On the defensive side, for more of the positives for Bama, Christian Harris played the game of his life. 7 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss. Dallas Turner and Will Anderson is going to be ridiculous next year. That is going to be ridiculous. Also, Will Anderson proves why he should have won the Bernard. Listen, Jordan had his moment very early in the game, and then I don't think I ever saw Jordan Davis for the rest of the game. Okay? Will Anderson did not have a sack in this game, but altered it multiple times. Him and Dallas Turner are going to be... It's disgusting. It's going to be disgusting next year for Bama. But like we said, Georgia gets the win 33-16, made it happen when it mattered, and Kirby Smart exercises his demons against his mentor, his old head coach. He got it done. Georgia, y'all finally did it. Shout out to the Braves for breaking the sports curse, so the Bulldogs couldn't find a way to choke this one. But congrats, UGA fans, go crazy. Can't wait for next season because we got a lot of stars coming back. And yeah, it should be fun. Should be a very, very fun one for sure. Moving over to college basketball, staying on the college lane. We're gonna get a lot more college basketball as college football's gone back. So we'll get even more and more into basketball season as that begins to take more and more precedence as we're now in the NFL playoffs also. So if you're a basketball fan, it's a wonderful time. It's starting to heat up a little bit, getting towards that All-Star break. College basketball season, we're getting into conference play. Oklahoma State takes down Baylor. Baylor, it was a bad week. It was a bad week for Baylor. After they had stormed their way to number one and had held on to it for a couple weeks, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Of course, we talked about them taking that L to Texas Tech and how dangerous Texas... Actually, no, Texas Tech beat Kansas, right? I talked about them beating Kansas last week. And then the next game, the very next game, which may have been on Monday... I got the national championship wrong, but I got Texas Tech right. Because they took down the number one team in the nation. And then Oklahoma State walked in against Baylor and got the win 61-54. Bryce Thompson looked like the guy he was supposed to be, that 5-star scoring guard out of high school. One of the most electrifying scorers in high school. And he looked like that guy. He finally looked like that guy. Of course, he made that transfer to Oklahoma State. 19 points for Bryce in this game. Now, LJ Cryer came off the bench, had 18 for Baylor, but Oklahoma State, man, they showed that toughness. And against a team, a notoriously tough, a notoriously good defensively team in Baylor, Oklahoma State came through. They came through, got the job done. Congratulations, Baylor. This is the season. Listen, nobody really goes undefeated. It is very, very hard to go undefeated in college basketball. These things happen. It's all about how you come back from these losses. And we're going to finally get to see how Baylor responds to some adversity this season. Oregon and USC. Now, everybody had been riding my dear Trojans' coattails right to the top, singing their praises. But boy, oh boy, Oregon did not get the memo. And especially not Will Richardson. Of course, the lone guard returning from that team with, Chris Duarte and so on and so forth last season. That a lot of people had a lot of expectations for. Well, Richardson came back, and this is why he came back. Against the top 10 team in the nation in USC, Will Richardson goes for 28, hits 5 threes. He was a monster in this game. He was a monster in this game for USC. They could do nothing with him. Could simply just do nothing with him. Isaiah Mobley had a great game, 19-9, but it was not enough. It wasn't enough. Richardson leads the charge. Oregon goes into USC and gets the job done. Congrats to the Ducks. UK, Kentucky, of course, they had that rough start to the season. Same with Ty Washington had a rough start. But listen, and probably the matchup, a lot of people had circled on their calendars between the top two, at least by rating, freshman guards in the country, between Kennedy Chandler and Ty Washington. It was a very decisive win. It was a very, very decisive win for Ty Washington and the Wildcats. They get the win 107-79. Ty goes for 28. 28 seems to be the magical number this week in college basketball. Ty went for 28. A very efficient 28 as well. Xavier Wheeler, 21 points. He's the X factor. He is the X factor for that team. If he's going, UK's a much better team. They're a much better team when Wheeler's playing well. He played great in this game. Kennedy Chandler, now don't get me wrong, boy had 17 points, was solid, but Ty definitely won the matchup. Santi Vasova for Tennessee, also leading scorer, 20 points for him. But UK dominated. Probably the best win of the season, I would say, for Kentucky this far. They needed this game. They needed to win a game like this and needed to win a game in this fashion against a rival, because that provides a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence for this team going forward, a lot of confidence for Ty. If he can play at this level, that changes things. That changes things big time for Kentucky. Calipari, I know a lot of people where you're like, but if he can get this team playing in this direction, we can ease up. We can ease up for sure. And to end off the college basketball segment, I'll quickly talk about some of the exceptional, and I mean exceptional, performance from two of the top centers, in my opinion, in the nation this year. Walker Kessler, UNC transfer, now with Auburn, who I think might be the number one team in the nation when the AP poll comes out, if it didn't come out yesterday. 20, 10, and 7. And that's not 7 assists, that's 7 blocks, all right? I'm talking about with these two players, probably the two best shot blockers in the nation, all right? Up there with, I guess, like Chet Holmgren and so on and so forth. But, Chet, Walker, and Mark, probably the 3 best. But we're talking about Walker and Mark right now. But Kessler, 20, 10, and 7. Auburn wins against Ole Miss. Dominant game for him. And then against NC State for Duke, Mark Williams goes 19, 11, and 8 blocks. 8 blocks. I mean, these are two guys that if they're playing this well for these teams, and the way I said Xavier Wheeler is the X factor for Kentucky, when Kessler and Williams are playing at a high level for Auburn and for Duke, that just, it makes those teams championship contenders. If they want to contend for Final Four spots, national championships, Mark Williams has to be that dominant force that we've seen him be able to be last year and especially this year. Walker Kessler has to be that guy for Auburn, right? Doesn't have to be the guy, but he needs to be one of the guys. And if he can play as well as he's played defensively and against the other great centers in this game, all Auburn aren't pretenders. They will not be pretenders. But I had to give a shout out to the big boys this week. But yeah, that was college basketball. Now for entertainment, we're going to kick off. We're going to kick off with some music, all right? We had another, listen, we love to see it. We love to see it. We starting off 2021 properly, all right? Cordae, long awaited, From a Bird's Eye View. A lot of hype for this album. Of course, his last project was beloved. He was Grammy nominated for it. And really, really, really pushed Cordae into that segment of young rappers a lot of people felt is guys that could potentially inherit the throne. So how would he follow it up here on From a Bird's Eye View? Right now, off of first listen, I haven't gotten around to the second listen, but I will give a rating. I'm going to give it a strong 8.8, which means the boy delivered. He delivered. He delivered. He came through. A lot of people were shaky. A lot of people, I like Super, I think, a little bit more than some other people. But some people were a little worried. They were expecting a little bit of a sophomore slump for Cordae, but there was no sophomore slump here on this album. Absolutely no sophomore slump on this album. It was great. It was great. It was great. It's one that could even go higher than an 8.8 potentially, but I feel pretty good about that 8.8. It was a very good album. He delivered again. I think Want For Me was probably my favorite track off of first listen. But yeah, I slept on Sinister. I did not listen to Sinister when it first came out, so that was, wow. That was another one that kind of stood out to me. But yeah, Cordae, super talented. Super, super, super talented. I think it's another album worth singing his praises. He's next up. He's next up, and that next is becoming more of a now up. Very, very soon, if he continues with this momentum and he continues putting out projects of this quality for the remainder of his career. He could be one of those guys that, as we've stated, eventually inherits the throne. But yeah, shout out to Cordae. He held it down for sure. Now, let's talk about some Telly. Alright, let's talk about some Telly. Of course, last week, we had that Singles Inferno. We had a lot to talk about. We still got a lot to talk about. I'll talk about Power Book 2. Alright, we're going to talk about Power Book 2. It's getting very, very interesting. It's getting very, very interesting. Spoiler alert as always. But, Tariq, Effie, Lauren, and now D. Okay, Reed. You acting like your father. But yeah, another week of Tariq being a Don. Even though I don't know how he's gonna get out of this murder case, but it's Tariq St. Patrick. He gonna figure out a way. That seems to be a recurring theme. Davis continues to be the greatest lawyer, possibly on television right now. Yeah, it was another solid episode. Carrie is still trifling. Councilman is still, even though he was less scummy this week than usual, I will say that. He was much less scummy. He was actually almost likable this week. Shout out to Lawrence Tate. But yeah, moving on up. But yeah, it was another solid episode. Y'all can let me know if y'all watched Power and what your feelings on this week's episode was. Attack on Titan. It was a madness, alright? It was a madness. Now, I thought we were going to get to a particular scene in the manga this week, but I think it's actually smart that they didn't include that whole chapter yet. Because that deserves its own, which is probably next episode. But Gabby, you know, I have detested Gabby from before I even got to actually read the manga. When I was just an anime only watcher, I detested. I hated that girl with a passion, with a passion. But you know, seeing her with Falco, I had to give her some respect. All right, she admitted, you know, and showed a lot of maturity for somebody so young. She admitted her faults in her judgment of the people. You know, she said there was no devils when she came here. She realized there was no devils. They were just people, and yeah, I can kind of respect the Gabby redemption arc here, and you know, kind of what's going on there. Um, Mikasa Ackerman still stuck in the kind of determining, you know, how she feels after, you know, what Eren said. I think Eren was lying. I think he was lying to do what he had to do. We're gonna see what he does with the founding Titan, and see what happens there. If he's able, that is, if he's able to get to Zeke, because Zeke is in bad shape. He's in bad shape. Piek continues to be probably up there with Zeke in terms of the smartest. And honestly, if Eren wasn't so OP, Piek's Titan is honestly super underrated. Definitely one of the best Titans. In the way that she uses it, at the very least, she's goated. She's goated. She gets the hype. She gets the hype for a reason. Super elite, but yeah. It's all coming to a head. All I'm gonna say, not to spoil anything, is next episode 19, is going to be nuts. Y'all might want to watch that one. Euphoria. Dog. This show is crazy. It's more crazy than season 1. Alright, and we're 2 episodes in. Cassie, we can't save you. We cannot save you, Cassandra. Alright, you're finished. Alright? And y'all cannot come out here and be like she's being manipulated. Because maybe she is a little bit. But she's doing this on her own accord, alright? Nate gave her a way out. She consented to all of this. She is doing Maddie wrong on her own accord, alright? You cannot save her at this point, okay? There is no saving Cassie. And we saw what Maddie does, alright? Maddie got hands. Maddie is about that life, alright? So there is no saving Cassie from what happens when Maddie finds out what she's been doing with Nate. Nate, of course, scum of the earth, menace to society. Shout out to Jacob Lordy, because he's a great actor, because we all hate Nate. But man, what he did to Cal, his father, at the end of this episode. And also, I saw a couple other people, a couple thousand, and a couple other, really, this is like a couple thousand people, you know, peep that, let's be real, Nate still, I know Nate says he's in love with Cassie in that opening montage. By the way, listen, if Sydney Sweeney did not want to get naked on this show, she wouldn't have to, alright? Okay, stop throwing accusations at Sam. That's unfair. It feels like, I'm going to say, with this show, with these actors, with the relationship they have with the director, that if they were uncomfortable, they would not have to, right? Angus and Z didn't have to get, right, in the, like, drug dealer scene to the cold opening. Pretty much not cold opening was his grandma. But in episode 1, when they had it all stripped, they didn't have to show anything, right? If she was uncomfortable, I'm sure, you know, there's enough support on that set where she wouldn't have to, okay? So let's relax with that. And on that same accord, Sydney Sweeney is ridiculously beautiful, but she's also a fantastic actress, because the emotion she's been able to portray has been, give her an Emmy. She got to be Emmy nominated for this. They were in line when they said this was her best performance of her career. She's been fantastic. But yeah, Rue, Crackhead, her and Elliot seem to have a little something going on. Shout out to my boy Dom. He's been great so far. What else? Oh, how could I not talk about that boy? Ash being with it always. Always with it. But Fez and Lexi are the best people on this show. Not because they're, you know, like, perfect. Lexi, she's not perfect, but she's less flawed than everybody else, I'd say. But yeah, I'm Team Lexi and Fez. I'm definitely Team Lexi and Fez like everybody else. What else happened? Oh yeah, Kat. I don't know why y'all were up in arms. Now, some of the people got it, but that scene was done perfectly. In her bedroom, that was some of the realest stuff I've ever seen on Euphoria. That was some of the realest portrayal of, a teenage girl or a young adult, woman I've seen on TV. Because that's how it is. That's even how it is some ways for guys, but especially for girls. From the friends I have, that is exactly how it is. The pressures from social media, this constant positivity, and then a lot of people were like, why would she, which was funny. It was super ironic to see people on Twitter like, why would she throw away Ethan? He's the perfect boyfriend. He's nice to her. He's not toxic. Blah, 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 blah. Why would, that's not realistic. Why would she ever throw away a good guy? I don't know, because it happens in real life all the time. All the time. All the time. Women throw away good men. For whatever reason. For their, own flaw reason. Whatever it is. It happens. That's realistic. That's how it is. Just like good men throw away good women. Good women throw away good men all of the time. All of the time. Now, I'm not, some of y'all, that are defenders might be like, Chris, are you talking about yourself? I never said I was a good man, okay? I never said that. I'm not going to claim that, okay? But it happens all the time. That was a very realistic, interpretation of what actually goes down. So that was like, yo, that's ridiculous. That was a fantastic scene. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Barbie because she acted the hell out of that. But yeah, it was great. Euphoria, another good episode. It's HBO. All right, it's adult content, so get used to seeing, some of the... It was a madness, all right? It was a madness. It was a madness. That first 30 minutes was a madness. That's all I'm going to say. It was a madness. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to the NFL. I'm going to take a Deer Park unofficial water sponsor, sponsored water break as a... Well, I don't even know where to start. You know what? I'm going to give y'all what y'all want. I'm going to give you what you want. You want to hear me talk about the Cowboys, right? And that's what you came to this episode because you were like, oh, the Cowboys lost. Let's see Chris in his sorrows. Let's, break out the Kleenex. I get it. I know what's coming. Come on. This is what y'all were here for, right? This is what you came for. I'm going to give you what you want, all right? I'm going to skip ahead and we're going to go straight to my beloved Dallas Cowboys taking on the San Francisco 49ers in the wild card. Because I know you want to talk about it. I watched it all on First Take. Y'all been hitting me in the messages. So here you go, all right? 49ers take out the Cowboys 23-17. We lost. And you know what? I'm not surprised. What did Nate say? I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. I'm not. I'm really not. I thought we were going to win, but I'm not surprised, Because I would not be a Cowboys. I would not be a true Cowboys fan if I didn't expect disappointment at every corner now. Even when it was great this season. You heard me in front of this camera, whether it was in this black seat, a brown couch, or that blue couch in Charlotte. You heard me say, I just don't know. I just don't know. And every time I said, I'll let this team hurt me, I backed out of it. And I backed out of it for this very, very, very reason. Alright? Because I would not be a Cowboys fan if I didn't know that we were going to blow it. We were always going to blow it. So if you ask me, did I shed any tears? Did I feel any type of way? Because the 49ers went out and embarrassed us? That the players went out and embarrassed us? That the coaching staff went out and embarrassed us? No. Because I expected it. Because I'm a Cowboys fan. Alright? And if you expect anything else besides disappointment from the Dallas Cowboys, you haven't been paying attention for the past almost 30 years. Right? Because it's been 30 years since we were actually contenders. So no, I wasn't disappointed. I was sure. I won't say I was disappointed. I was disappointed, but I wasn't upset. I was disappointed that Dak went 23 for 43, 254 threw a pick. I was disappointed that our great $1 million running back had a mere 31 yards. That's all our run game can muster. I was disappointed about that. I was disappointed by CeeDee Lamb barely getting any targets in that drop he had. I was disappointed Amari Cooper didn't do anything. I was disappointed Cedric Wilson didn't do anything. I was disappointed Trevion Diggs and looked like the guy that was getting cooked by Jamar Chase in college. I was disappointed that Deebo Samuel was giving him all types of fits. I was disappointed Anthony Brown was getting cooked. I was disappointed Micah got hurt and our defense fell apart. I was so disappointed. But I was not surprised. I was not surprised. At all. Deebo Samuel did what Deebo Samuel's done all year. He was on my fantasy team. I'm not surprised. In fact, in my dad's fantasy league where they have to pick players, but they can't pick them more than once, and it's like total points at the end of the playoffs, right? I told him to pick Deebo because I was like, you know what? Even though I think that we might win this game, Deebo's still going to probably have a big game because I don't see us stopping him. We got a lot of stuff to answer for. We got a lot of stuff to answer for, man. In this offseason, Mike McCarthy, fine coach. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. Kellen Moore, I'm not sure if he's the guy. Brian Flores looks real nice right about now. We got to address linebackers. We got to address the offensive line. I'm not going to say anything about Dak because it's not like we can get rid of him. Got to address the secondary. Diggs is great. He's great. Even with yesterday, I will still take Trevion Diggs on my team. But we have to have another corner, right? We got to have another guy that's pretty darn near lockdown because of how Diggs is, right? It's who he is. And I'm okay with that. I can live with having the best, ball skills defensive back in the league that's going to create a bunch of turnovers. He'll give up. He's going to give up, he's going to have games where he's going to give up some yards, right? And he's going to get beat because of how aggressive he is. But I can live with that. If he's, causing as many turnovers and changing the game the way that he can, I can live with that. But we got to have somebody else in that secondary, at that safety position, at that corner position that can still get it done reliably. That has that consistency where they can operate at an elite level. We have to have that. Defensive line, we got a great pass rush, but interior, we can get a little bit better. So there's still definitely holes in this team that I want to see addressed. But yeah, if y'all were expecting tears or me to just go into this big glorious rant, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because this is the Cowboys. This is what we do. Right? We disappoint when it matters. 49ers, congratulations. I know I didn't talk much about y'all, but, y'all did what y'all had to do. Did what y'all had to do to win. Garoppolo wasn't fantastic. The defense was good, though. Deebo was great. And y'all did what y'all had to. Congrats. Move on. I don't see y'all making it past thin unless the defense just turns up for real. But congrats. Y'all move on. Cowboys, it's what we do. It's what we do at this point. Now to go back to where we started, right? We're going back to where we kicked off, which of course is the Bengals and the Raiders. And I listen, Joe Shiesty, Joe Cool, whatever you want to call him, he's the coolest quarterback in the league, hands down, no conversation. He is the swag. He's that dude. Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty. He's that guy. He is the guy. Joey franchise. He's the man. 24 for 34, 244, 2 touchdowns for Joe Shiesty. Jamar Chase, 9 receptions, 116. He was worth the hype and more. Bengals did what they did. They're kind of my dark horse, right? Defense played very well in this game. Wilson with 12 tackles in this game, had a PD as well. Jermaine Pratt with the pick. I like this Bengals team, right? They're young, they're hungry. I feel like if anybody can shake some stuff up, because we've seen them take down top tier teams. If anybody can cause some chaos in this playoffs, I think it's the Bengals. We'll see if it happens, but I'm very, very high on this team. Derek Carr went over 300, but it wasn't his most efficient day. Waller and Jacobs had their moments, but just couldn't get it done. Bengals were able to bend, not break, and did that all game long. Held them to 19 points. Burrow and Chase are going to do Burrow and Chase things, and that was enough. Bengals move on. Like I said, they're my dark horse. Next on the wild card docket, we moved over to Buffalo where it was like 0 degrees. All right, it was freezing, beyond freezing. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter because Josh Allen in the Buffalo Bills. I mean, it was dominant from the start. From the start. They were playing no games with the Patriots. Playing absolutely no games. They were here for a sole reason, and that was to batter this Patriots team and move on. And they left no doubt in this game. 47-17. They win the grudge match here in the wild card. I think they scored. I don't think they punted once in this game, if I'm correct. I think every single drive they had, they scored. Yeah, every single drive that the Bills had, they scored. They didn't punt. They didn't turn the ball over. They scored. They scored to the end of the game. A dominant, utterly dominant performance from the Bills. Josh Allen goes 21 for 25, 308, 5 touchdowns. He turned up. Singletary also 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dalton Knox got 2 in the box. It was the most dominant game in the wild card that I've seen in a minute. In a minute. Besides the other super dominant game by the Bucs, but we'll talk about that very shortly. But the Bills completely dominated this game. I didn't for a second think the Patriots were going to win this game. Not even for a second. Mac Jones, listen, he wasn't bad, but listen, I've been saying it all year. You put the ball in his hands, you're going to win. He had 2 picks to go along with his 2 touchdowns and 232. The biggest reason why the Bills won this game, besides the offense being a juggernaut, was that defense. It was a complete performance. Of course, Damian Harris, 15 rushing touchdowns this season. He's been great. Ramondre Stevenson, when he's had a fill-in, he's been great. They were a non-factor. They were a non-factor. A non-factor in this game. The Bills' rush defense completely shut down the rushing attack for the Patriots. They could do nothing. Kendrick Bourne was a bright spot, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. A dominant, and I mean dominant, performance for the Bills. And it's got a lot of people thinking they might be Super Bowl bound, but we'll see what happens. Patriots, they're in a weird position where it's like I don't know. It's a rebuild, but it's more like a reload. They're kind of stuck in between a rebuild and a reload. It's an awkward position where they're not mid, but they're not, like, bad. But they're not necessarily a good. It's a weird position for the Patriots. We'll see what happens in the offseason. Of course, they got the GOAT coach, so can't rule anything out. I said I was going to talk about the Bucs and the Eagles very, very shortly. Well, the time is now. And even though there's no Antonio Brown because Antonio's busy, hanging out with Ye, and there's no Chris Godwin because he's injured, it didn't matter. The Eagles were clearly overmatched, and it was another dominant performance. Eagles got 15 in basically garbage time, which was pretty much the whole fourth quarter. Because the Bucs went up 31-0, and it was, once again, similar to the Bills game, I didn't for a second think the Eagles were going to win this game. Not for a second. Not for a second. Jalen Hurts was in the torture rack, 2 picks, 20 incompletions to go for his 23 completions, so nearly on the wrong side of that statistic. Tom Brady did Tom Brady things. He's the GOAT, 29 for 37, 271, 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans, for all the questions about how healthy Evans was, he left no doubt on the field. 9 receptions, 117 for the number 1 receiver for the Bucs. Even though I guess that could be argued, but I mean, he's the de facto number 1 now. Gronk, 5 receptions, 31 yards, 1 touchdown, moved up on some of the playoff all-time lists. Listen, you cannot rule this Bucs team out. You can't rule Tom Brady out in the playoffs. A lot of people are down on this team, and I don't understand it. I really don't. I get it that you were feeling the vibe with the Rams. I get it you're feeling the vibe with the Packers this year. If I hear one more person mention Arizona as contenders, I'm going to puke. No disrespect to Kyler and the Cardinals. I actually like them. I wish them the best. But come on now. Come on now. Y'all watch this season. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. They just like us. But y'all cannot discount the Bucs. Just stop ruling out Brady in the playoffs. When has this ever worked out? I don't care who he doesn't have. This is the NFL. Alright? It's the NFL. There's a lot of talent. And Tom Brady can get the best out of guys that, aren't, necessarily elite talents. So I cannot rule this Bucs teams out. I just can't do it. And to end the wild card, before, of course, we got the Monday night game, the other game tonight. But in Big Ben's last game, the Chiefs sent him away to retirement, 42-21. Patrick Mahomes. I ripped. And I mean, it's been like this all season. I don't know what happened to that Steelers defense, but they've been garbage for minutes, if I'm being honest. And Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes things to that defense. I mean, he ripped them apart. 30-39, 404, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, it was surgical. Travis Kelce looked like, all-time great, one of the best tight ends ever. Travis Kelce, 5 receptions, 108, and a touchdown. Jared McKinnon got in the box. Pringle continued his hot streak, got 2 in the box. Again, the Chiefs, they had that rough stretch early on, but they're contenders. This playoff's a little bit different for me than last year, where I kind of felt that the Chiefs and the Bucs were a little bit ahead of everybody. This year, I feel like there's a lot of teams that can make it to the Super Bowl, and that's going to make these next couple rounds very, very interesting. The divisional is going to be must-watch. I mean, it's the NFL playoffs. It's always must-watch. But the divisional and the conference championship are going to be must-watch TV more than ever. Because there's a lot of teams around the same type of tier. There's nobody that's better than anybody. Like, anybody can, get there out of a collection of, 4 or 5 teams. So, it's going to be very interesting. And the Chiefs definitely need to be included in that. In Ben's last game, 29 for 44, 215, 2 touchdowns for the future Hall of Famer. It's not a bad way to go out. You got blown out, but, he's had worse games. Najee Harris couldn't do anything. I mean, I think the rushing game being non-existent was a bigger reason for Pittsburgh losing than really Ben, I'd say, in this case. Juju returned, but nothing special. 5 receptions, 26 yards. Going to be interesting. His free agency case. He's definitely lost some money, I would say, but we'll see. There's a lot of wide receiver needy teams, so I think he'll definitely find a spot. TJ Watt did TJ Watt stuff, had the sack, had a TD, but after that, it was all Chiefs. And it wasn't remotely close. A lot of blowouts here in the wild card. I think there was teams that, eked into the playoffs that it was like, okay, they made it, but they're just food. They're just food for, the big dogs. And we saw that. We saw in the NFL that there are levels to this, okay? And there was levels to this in the wild card, and we saw that in these games. And, yeah, of course, we still got the game tonight with the Cardinals and the Rams. And we'll see what goes down there since, a lot of people riding the Cardinals. But I think LA got that one. But we'll talk about that next. Well, actually, we'll talk about the division round next week. But see you for then. And to conclude episode 76, of course, that means we have reached the Roundup. And it's not too long this week. Let me find it. The big news, tennis, Australian Open. Australian Open has started. I think it started yesterday, but the big news was Novak Djokovic, again, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, and the guy that's on the verge of breaking Roger Federer's majors record, deported from Australia. Novak is very staunchly against the vaccine, and as a result, has blown this golden opportunity to get major number 21, and can't really put that blame on nobody but himself. All right, he wanted the exemption. They didn't give it to him. Australia has not played. They have been one of the best countries in handling the whole COVID situation. They shut it down earlier than anybody, and then were able to open up faster than anybody. And once again, when it's coming back with, a Morikawa, they are not playing any games. And they're not playing with you, Novak Djokovic. They don't care if you're, Novak Djokovic. All right? They gave you your terms. You didn't abide by them. They sent you away. It is what it is. In the UFC, of course, we got Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane. I honestly hope Francis wins that. Nothing against Cyril. But just for the chaos that's going to, come after that, if he is still heavyweight champion and Dana absolutely now has to pay his heavyweight champion or risk losing him, I definitely want to see that. But we had the first UFC event of the year in the fight nights led by Kelvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze. And Kattar, I don't know what it is. After Max Holloway puts a beating on you, it changes you. And it changes you for the better, apparently, because Kattar put a Max Holloway-sized beating on Giga. I mean, it was a clinic. It was a clinic for Kattar. One of the greatest performances of his career, and going to go down as one of the greatest performances of his career. He dominated Giga. I mean, those cuts he left on his face were vicious. He dominated. Great win for Kattar. Gets him back in the talks. Gonna have to beat another contender before you get that title shot. But it was a great way to bounce back. Giga. We'll see if it's like a fall down effect, and maybe you can get the sauce now and you'll become a better mixed martial artist. I don't know, but Kattar handle business. We'll see what happens between Francis and Cyril on Saturday. But like I said, without further ado, hope if you're on the southeast or really on the east coast, hope you're enjoying your snow days. Even though we're in uni and we're still out of person, so it doesn't really matter. Happy MLK Day, and I hope you guys enjoyed episode 76. See you next week back in the 704 for episode 77. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ocho signing off.